Hello, and welcome to what will undoubtedly be an enlightening and educational interview with one of the most important and pioneering individuals in the cryptocurrency universe, Charlie Lee, creator of Litecoin, i.e. Satoshi Light, or as I recently deemed Litecoin, the second most perfect investment vehicle of our lifetimes. This is Andy Hoffman, former marketing director of Miles Franklin, and as of this week, proprietor of the brand new subscription-based website CryptoGoldCentral.com, or as I like to call it, the sound money blog of the 21st century. In it, I write and podcast each day about all relevant factors related to Bitcoin, gold, and the precious metal and cryptocurrency universes. So check out the website and my Twitter handle, Andy_Hoffman_CG, and join my quest to the future of money. In this first episode of One-on-One, I'm honored to host one of the most brilliant minds in cryptocurrency. Until recently, the director of engineering at Coinbase, by far the largest Bitcoin exchange in the US, Charlie created Litecoin via a Bitcoin fork 6 years ago, creating what both he and I agreed to be silver to Bitcoin's gold, and what Adam Meister would undoubtedly deem the ultimate crypto dividend. With a cap of 84 million coins, exactly 4 times that of Bitcoin, the presumed goal is to one day trade at 25% of Bitcoin's value. If it comes even close to 25%, it could be one of the most spectacular investments of all time, which has certainly been the case in 2017, having risen from $4 to nearly $100 last month, before settling around $50 as I speak, amidst the cross-currents of today's Chinese exchange closure news. Even so, in today's hyperinflationary world, Litecoin's $2.5 billion market cap, for all intents and purposes, can still be considered a microcap, which, considering its position as the 5th largest cryptocurrency, or 4th excluding fraudulent pre-mined Ripple, shows us just how nascent the historic cryptocurrency revolution remains. Today, I was planning on focusing solely on Litecoin as opposed to Charlie's views on all things cryptocurrency. However, in light of this morning's breaking news that indeed Chinese cryptocurrency exchanges are being shut down, I will conclude the interview by asking Charlie's thoughts on this matter, particularly because the crypto shot heard around the world, which in my view is bullish for Bitcoin and Litecoin's future, was fired by none other than China's second largest crypto exchange, BTCC, which just happens to be run by Charlie's brother. To that end, I'd like to welcome you, Charlie, and salute you for the incredible work you've done to advance the cause of Litecoin, cryptocurrency in general, and the global movement towards sound, decentralized money.
Hey, Andy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, no problem. So let's start right away. I want to ask you to describe what drove you to create Litecoin, which at 6 years old next month is matched only by Bitcoin in age, security, and investment success. To that end, were you trying to create a wealth storage vehicle similar to Bitcoin as it appears to have morphed into today? Or was there a distinct technological goal you were seeking aside from simply being Bitcoin light?
Yeah, so when I created Litecoin, I guess I created Litecoin kind of by chance. So back then, there were a few altcoins around, like Namecoin, Solidcoin, Tenebricks, and someone suggested an idea of creating a more fair version of Tenebricks, and they were looking for a coder. So I suggested that I can help them create this. Eventually, we created something called Fairbricks, which is supposed to be a more fair version of Tenebricks. But because of how the Tenebricks code was done, Fairbricks had a bug in it that caused the launch to kind of fail. And then after that, I decided, hey, why don't I just create something different that's a lighter version of Bitcoin and kind of copy all the good innovation from all these different altcoins. But the idea was to make it as fair as possible and not come out to be like a scam or just a get-rich-quick scheme.
Right. Well, as a monetary guy like me, I spent all these years in precious metals, and now my interest in the crypto space is solely from a monetary value. There's almost nothing out there that I have any interest in because I'm really just looking for stores of value. And while, of course, Litecoin can have that as well, what I see here is exactly what you say, the same property, monetary values as Bitcoin, except just in as you say, a lighter version. And as we get on in this call, you can elaborate on what some of the things that differentiated are.
So before I found out about Bitcoin, I actually traded gold and gold futures commodities. So I had experience with gold and silver in terms of how it's it's good money. And so when I created Litecoin, I actually did set out to try to create the silver to Bitcoin's gold, realizing that Bitcoin is really good for money, and wanted to create something that's just easier to use. So made it faster, like 2.5 minutes as opposed to 10 minutes confirmation, and created more Litecoin, 84 million as opposed to 21 million. So I had that in mind when I created Litecoin.
Great. Now, on the next topic, for many years, Litecoin quietly languished in the $3 to $4 range, even during the early stages of this summer's Ethereum-led altcoin explosion. Clearly, the event that put Litecoin on the map, though, was its adoption of SegWit, which unquestionably was one of the most impactful catalysts of the Bitcoin scaling debate. As once Litecoin SegWit went live without a hitch, the Bitcoin Universal User-Activated Soft Fork movement was born, pushing the New York Agreement signatories to save face by preempting it with BIP 91, which activated on July 20th, igniting the next leg up of the cryptocurrency revolution. To that end, the Bitcoin community, and entire cryptocurrency community for that matter, owes Charlie a debt of gratitude, and certainly Litecoin holders, given that its price surged from $15 to $50 in the month following SegWit activation, and to nearly $100 in the month following Bitcoin SegWit activation 2 months later. Now, Charlie, please tell us how the events leading to Litecoin SegWit activation unfolded this spring, when, with the Bitcoin scaling debate at its most contentious and terrifying, you took the steps that broke it down, enabling such a dramatic technological achievement for Bitcoin and Litecoin alike.
Sure, it's quite a long story. So SegWit was introduced and announced, I think, 2-3 years ago. When I attended the Scaling Bitcoin conference, I first heard about SegWit, and I realized that it was one of the most amazing technological achievements for Bitcoin, where it basically like killed 3 birds with 1 stone, and it did it with a soft fork, so there's very low risk of the coin splitting. And unfortunately, it ran into a lot of just political problems in Bitcoin, where people would just spew a lot of lies about SegWit and make it seem like it's a really dangerous soft fork. Everything from like the anyone can spend lie, and just a lot of things were, a lot of people were against SegWit for really bad reasons. So I decided that I could actually try to help this with trying to get SegWit onto Litecoin first to prove that it actually does work, and it really is a good technical solution for Bitcoin. And the lies are actually all lies, all the FUD. So I took some time off from Coinbase, went part-time, and started really working on Litecoin, getting SegWit onto Litecoin. It's more of a kind of a political push on Litecoin also, because a lot of the miners on Litecoin also mined Bitcoin, and they were against SegWit on Bitcoin, so they didn't want to support SegWit on Litecoin because that might undermine their position on Bitcoin. So it took a lot of effort to convince miners, but slowly and surely we managed to get miners to believe in this one by one, and then eventually we got it through.
Wow, that's interesting, because if they were so against SegWit on Bitcoin, which is the common belief, why would they just do it on Litecoin? Why wouldn't they be as fighting and tough about it on Litecoin as they have been on Bitcoin?
They were initially, but there was one miner that decided to support us, and he owned about 10% of the hash rate. And when he turned on signaling for SegWit, the price shot up. So, and then F2 Pool also announced that they're going to support SegWit, and the price also went up after that announcement. So people realized that like adding SegWit to Litecoin is good for the price, which indirectly or directly is good for miners, right? If they make more money from mining Litecoin, then why not support it? So slowly but surely, yeah, they eventually figured out that this is a good move for Litecoin and a good way to test SegWit.
Right. Ultimately, it all comes down to the money, unless, of course, one believes that there are political motivations, such as, the kind of common belief out there that somehow the Chinese government was behind the effort to stop SegWit, and we'll never know if that's the truth. But certainly, what's going on today is going to make it very difficult for people who are against, Bitcoin's technological evolution succeeding. Okay, next. Now that this major step in the Bitcoin scaling debate has been taken, which undoubtedly will catalyze billions of dollars of technology investments into the cryptocurrency space, I'd like to speak of the use cases Litecoin intends to distinguish itself with. That is, aside from the obviously strengthening monetary properties it has taken on post-SegWit, i.e. silver to Bitcoin's gold. Clearly, Litecoin's network speed and growing monetary acceptance make it a prime candidate for day-to-day small-scale commerce. But unquestionably, Charlie has some other ideas in mind, specifically atomic cryptocurrency swaps, which enable crypto users to seamlessly exchange one crypto for another, which, if Litecoin can indeed become the go-to crypto for such a broadly desired application, may yield a significant advantage. To that end, Charlie, what are you prioritizing in Litecoin's technological development? Day-to-day commerce, atomic swaps, or anything else the crypto community might not be familiar with? And more importantly, which of these do you feel has the most promise as a distinguishing use case for Litecoin?
Yeah, so let me talk a bit about where I see Litecoin fit in. So Bitcoin being the most decentralized and most secure, I see that because it needs to stay that way, the Bitcoin fees cannot be little to nothing, right? There has to be some significant fees so that you can because each Bitcoin transaction costs the same to the network. So if a transaction is moving millions of dollars versus a transaction that's only used to purchase a meal, like $10 meal, for example, those two transactions cost the same to the network. So they would have to pay the same amount of fees. So in order for the Bitcoin network to be secure, the fees has to go up to actually secure the whole network and all the transactions in it. And it will price out the smaller transactions. And we've seen this happening. And even with SegWit and Lightning, I see that Bitcoin will still have expensive fees. And Litecoin, where Litecoin fit in is Litecoin can target a less decentralized and less secure space, but having lower fees and more transactional bandwidth. So this is where I see Litecoin can fit in, where Bitcoin, kind of like gold, digital gold, would be more of a store value, and Litecoin, like digital silver, would be more used for transactions. And the beauty of SegWit is that it allows something called Lightning Network. And with Lightning Network comes the ability for what you mentioned, which is atomic cross-chain swaps. And what that means is that people can send Litecoin on one end and the recipient can receive Bitcoin, or vice versa. It can be atomically swapped between the different cryptos without like a lot of work on the user end, and it can be done instantaneously.
Do you expect that, well, first of all, when would you expect this to be, rolled out? And also, do you think it's something that would be proprietary to Litecoin or something that other coins would be able to do as well?
It's something that all coins would be able to do. I see the future I envision is that basically all the coins will all be instantaneously swappable with each other. And you don't really need to hold coins that you don't, that's not really store value. You can just swap to whatever coin you want to spend it or to use it to power decentralized application and whatnot.
Wow, that is exciting. Okay, well, next I want to emphasize to one-on-one listeners that unlike Ethereum and most other centralized altcoins, Litecoin is, like Bitcoin, completely decentralized. In other words, Charlie doesn't work for Litecoin, but for the cause of expanding its recognizability, usability, and of course, price, kind of like the Bitcoin core developers. To that end, tell us how much of your time you are spending on Litecoin these days, and if you had to briefly describe your short and long-term goals for Litecoin, what would they be?
Yeah, so I recently, a few months ago, left Coinbase to focus solely on Litecoin. So that's what I'm doing. Focusing my time just basically all on Litecoin and actually just mostly on cryptocurrency in general, right? I want Bitcoin to succeed also. Bitcoin succeeding will pave the way for all these other coins and for Litecoin. In terms of what I see for Litecoin, a few things I want to add to Litecoin is the ability to do more smart contract type stuff. something similar to Ethereum, but maybe not as fully functional, but just being able to do more smart things with money. The other thing I want to add to Litecoin is more fungibility. So one of the key things that's missing from cryptocurrency or actually from Bitcoin and Litecoin, is fungibility. In terms of good money, it's pretty much like the perfect form of money, except for one aspect, which is it's not very fungible. What I mean by that is that if you send Litecoin to someone else, they can see the whole history of your coin. So each separate Litecoin is not exactly the same. Kind of right now, if I give you a $20 bill, it's not different from any other $20 bill I give you. So it's fungible. You can just use it without worrying about where it came from. For Litecoin and Bitcoin, that's not the case. So fixing that, I think, is quite important in the future. And something I'm looking into is adding something called confidential transaction to Litecoin. This will add the ability to hide the amount that you're sending and add confidential transactions in addition to something like CoinJoin will give you more fungibility for Litecoin.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because I've been hearing for some time now that once that we have SegWit that can be done as well, and for people who are into Monero, they say, well, eventually these other coins will be able to do that too. But I see what's going on today with the Chinese government. Obviously, there's a lot of reasons they do it. For one, it could partly just be politics ahead of the National Congress. For two, it's a genuine fear that Bitcoin is going to eat its lunch like Jamie Dimon and make the monetary system difficult. But that fungibility thing it just hangs out there because now that we have SegWit and it appears there's going to be maybe the ability to add a Monero-like quality to Bitcoin and Litecoin, that it's kind of stirring up things. Like, how long do you think it would take before these kind of things, now that we have SegWit, could get rolled out on Bitcoin and Litecoin?
So with SegWit, things like confidential transactions are now just a soft fork away. But soft forks could still take a while, right? For one, we still need to build out the upgrade from confidential transaction as a soft fork. And two, it will take some time for the network to adopt it. So I would say at the earliest, it would be next year, like a year later.
Like 12 months or so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And do you think this is something that your team of developers and the Bitcoin team of developers are going to work on very, very diligently because it's like a priority?
I wouldn't say confidential transaction is a priority, right? It's something that's nice to have. I think scalability right now is a priority. So SegWit, Lightning networks, and other ways of optimizing the code and making it scale better. I think that's more of a priority, and to be able to have more transactions, more throughput.
Right.
And
so,
I think,
okay, go
ahead.
No, go on.
Privacy, fungibility is important, but I think there's more of a political issue behind that, and we won't see until we get there what the governments will think about adding privacy to Bitcoin and Litecoin.
Right. So before we see Litecoin and Bitcoin become Monero-like, they're going to be working more on the actual scaling issues like Lightning Network just to make the networks faster.
Yep.
Okay. And finally, I'd like to hear your thoughts about the Chinese exchange closures announced today, starting with what you have gleaned from your brother and others you may have spoken to about the government's ultimate intentions, and additionally the long-term ramifications such actions portend in your view for Bitcoin and Litecoin. Personally, I believe the removal of such detrimentally controlled, centrally regulated institutions from the crypto community is a positive development, but listeners will no doubt want to hear your views on the subject.
Yeah, so I think that the reason why the Chinese government is shutting down crypto exchanges is because of the recent ICO hype and just all this volatility in ways people are making lots of money and also potentially losing a lot of money. So when that happens, it causes social unrest. So I think they're doing this because they don't want people to get hurt from gambling on ICOs or on Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. So, and I don't think they have anything against Bitcoin per se or cryptocurrency, and they're just trying to control this so that their citizens don't get hurt from it. Whether or not this will last, I don't know.
Right. Do you think that, all else equal, because there's so many different things going on politically and economically, do you think that this is a good thing just from the biggest picture view of things for Bitcoin? I mean, is Bitcoin better without Chinese exchanges? Obviously there's a bigger question, is it better without exchanges at all? But is the community going to be stronger without this cloud hanging over it of a government in the nation where most of the mining is done being a presence?
It's hard to say. So what's good is that if China finally eventually did ban Bitcoin exchanges, we no longer have to worry about when or if they will ban Bitcoin exchanges, right? It's always been, the past few years, always been, when is China going to ban Bitcoin? So that's kind of a uncertainty that's no longer there if it actually did happen. In terms of, it's also a good test for Bitcoin to see how well it can handle a certain country banning the on-ramps. So it makes it harder for people to get into and out of Bitcoin or crypto in general from fiat. So things like local Bitcoins or decentralized exchanges will pop up to help solve this problem, where you don't need a centralized exchange approved by the government to handle trading, right? So you can do it with local Bitcoin or decentralized exchanges.
Right.
So
go on.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying I think this is much closer to, not that Satoshi knows everything, but I think this is much closer to his vision, and it's certainly much closer to my vision. But of course, practically speaking, we're going back to the grassroots, so we're going to have to start all over again with the decentralization that was taken away in some ways. And generally speaking, I think it's going to be good. Do you agree with me, or do you think it will be bad, or that it'll be good, but it'll just take some time to get there?
Yeah, I think it will be bad short term, but good long term. So the price, as you see, is showing that the market feels that this is a bad thing for Bitcoin. At least for short term, I agree. If it's harder for people to get in and out of Bitcoin, it's definitely not good. And China banning Bitcoin, so to speak, also may lead to other countries feeling like they also want to ban Bitcoin or crypto. And that could be bad, or that will be bad for Bitcoin. So we'll see what happens. But in the long term, I think China will come to their senses and start regulating the exchanges, and it will be a good thing for Bitcoin.
Right. I mean, ultimately, the Bitcoin can't be stopped, but as we've seen on multiple occasions, it can be slowed down by a variety of reasons. But it's really more the price that gets slowed down than the Bitcoin network, and that's what people need to separate, because right now, the way I see it, this is as strong as the Bitcoin network has been and the Bitcoin product has been. So I guess we'll just move on to the future.
It's hard for people to separate the price from Bitcoin, the network. The price, because everyone's all invested in Bitcoin, so the price matters a lot. And for the past few times, the China ban thing has really stopped Bitcoin price increase in its tracks, multiple times, right? It did it when Bitcoin hit 1,200, and it's doing right now when Bitcoin almost hit 5,000. So, and Bitcoin keeps going up. The price keeps going up. So I'm not worried.
Right. And neither am I. Okay, Charlie, on that note, I want to thank you again for all the great work you've done for cryptocurrency in general, and specifically Litecoin, which I believe to be one of the best investment opportunities of our lifetimes. And to today's one-on-one audience, please check out CryptoGoldCentral.com, my brand new subscription-based website dedicated entirely to cryptocurrency and precious metals, which I assure you is well worth the measly $225 cost for a full year of nonstop, hard-hitting commentary. Thanks again, and have a great crypto day.